Hello, everyone. I'd like to invite you to join me in listening to the teachings of an enlightened Buddhist master, Ajahn Sumedho, one of the most enlightened people in our world today. I know that you may be busy, the mind may be complicated and scattered, a lot of things going on. Hopefully not depression, anxiety, etc., but just having the busyness of many thoughts and ideas. But if you are interested in enlightenment, what enlightenment is, what correct meditation practice is, the right thought, the right action, the right view, the right understanding as it relates to the Buddha, I invite you to join me in listening to this master speak. This is a very recent talk given by Ajahn Sumedho at Amaravati Monastery in England. I encourage you to sit in a relaxed position, not having any extra distractions or noises around, so that you can give your full heart, body, and mind to the teacher's mind, to the community's mind at Amaravati Monastery, and I hope that you will be able to listen to this together with me, just in the same way that if you were really at the monastery, at the temple with your whole body and mind. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to lead and to speak, and for taking this seriously and giving your whole focus and attention and presence to this talk. It is entitled, Emptiness is Not Oblivion. The empty mind means total freedom.
Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Aparuta de Sangama Tassa Tawara Ye Sodavanta Babunchantu Satan. So I welcome everybody on this afternoon to reflect on the way it is, the Dhamma. So coming over from my residence, I had to take a long way around and eventually past the wreckage of the Bhikkhus Vihara. There's no more common room anymore. and just watching how that affects the mind, because we lived so long with these old wooden buildings. So it's being able to observe, not to judge or get nostalgic, but just to observe what it's like when something that you can take for granted for years suddenly disappears. It's like this. So this afternoon, I reflect on the word emptiness, because this, just the word itself, how does it resonate in your consciousness? When I say all conditions are empty, and empty might mean it's worthless or just the absence of something. Or when we talk about Jit Wang, empty mind, some people find that quite puzzling because it seems like our minds are so busy thinking. We're always building new concepts, views, opinions in our minds, and so we live in a world of forms. So we want to create in empty space something that has form. So the samsara is all about form. Forms of various shape, from Eiffel Tower to this temple to the Chard Building in London. They're all interesting forms. The Bhikkhu's Vihara was not a very interesting form. It's just an ordinary form. And it's like this. And when I do this, then the way it is empty. The mind, the empty consciousness is formless. And so formlessness has no qualities, that we can't give an empty mind any quality other than it's empty. And when we are mindful, when we're observing the way it is like this, we observe the emptiness rather than take an interest in the forms. So the ordinary person who is untrained in Dhamma and who is still ignorant of Dhamma, of the formless, want to put a form into some kind of concept or belief or definition, some perception. So we drive ourselves quite crazy sometimes with our endless thinking, our opinions, our views, our fears, like fear of death. When you're getting celebrate my 92nd year of living in this body in a few days, on the 27th. And if I had spent the past 60 years just promoting myself as a person, a personality, wanting to be recognized for my personality, for my abilities or lack of them, and then there's a lot to fear, because death means what happens when you die? And that's a very common question. And people wonder, we all wonder, what happens? What will happen to Ajahn Sumedho when he dies? Well, in my way of realizing Dhamma, Ajahn Sumedho is already dead. There's a pure awareness which is deathless. The physical body, which we perceive and name Ajahn Sumedho, is lived its lifespan, is wearing out. It's not a condition one wants to promote any longer, because it's an old body. And if I see it in a personal way, then there's a lot to fear, because I don't know what's going to happen if I will go to some heavenly abode, or maybe I'll go to the Paranimita heaven, or maybe I'll just be reborn again as another human being. All kinds of speculation. We can fill the mind with all possibilities between the highest heaven and the lowest hell. A few years ago, my sister, she was 91 years old, a devout Christian, and I went to see her just before she passed away, and she was very devout Catholic, and she belonged to an order of Carmelite lay women, and she'd go to retreats at Carmelite monasteries in California. And she was a very, very good person. I remember, even as a child, she was a really considerate sister. She was 2 years older than I, and she was always very protective, very supportive. Liked the Sangha. She knew Ajahn Amaro quite well. She really liked him. She came to visit the Abhayagiri monastery, sometimes with her husband. And then when I went to see her in a care home for old people who lost their memories, she was lying down in a very passive way. And she looked like she'd given up on life. You know, it was the beginning of the COVID epidemic, and her daughter, who had been her carer for many years, got COVID and couldn't look after her, so they put her in this very nice care home. And all she said to me was, "I hope Jesus accepts me when I die." And I thought, that's really sad to hear after she'd given her life to so many prayers and good actions and she was a good mother. And so that's rather sad reflection on when you're on your deathbed. Will Jesus accept me? So I assured her Jesus would accept her. But this is what, no matter how good you might be, goodness is not the ultimate purpose of our life. Because my sister was basically very good, and still the doubt about what will happen when I die, when I lose this old body, this present form. Where meditation helps you to realize your true nature is not the form. The form's going to die, no matter if you live to 120. It's because it was born, it will pass away, and that's just the law of nature. That cannot be changed, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not good or bad, it's just the way of phenomena. Everything that has a beginning has an ending. So I don't wish to die. It's not something I personally wish for, but I'm, as I said before, in many ways already dead. Die before you die. Because I realize there's no Ajahn Sumedho. It's just a name, a contrived name that was given to me. The body is old, worn out form, so that's going to die. But if you don't have a form, if your true nature is the formless Dhamma, ultimate reality, then there's nothing to fear. In some ways, we'll be relieved when the body goes, because it becomes more difficult to maneuver and live life in a 92-year-old body. So I wanted to share this with you it's a rare opportunity. You can hear the reflections of a 92-year-old bhikkhu facing at the end of his life. But the emptiness is not just like a void of nothingness. It's not just oblivion. When you meditate and let go of everything, you realize your true nature is already empty. It's peaceful. And it's like this. And it's here and now. So silence, I call it silence, or the substratum of all phenomena. It's here and now, it's timeless. One can realize it through letting go of one's habits of identity with the forms, mental, emotional, physical forms. Letting go of, not getting rid of them. It's not, as the big Buddha pointed out, it's not annihilation. It's not a destruction of anything. It's the relinquishment, the letting go of conditions that one holds to, which are changing, and their natures to change, to begin and end, to be born and die. So what's left is a convention. Ajahn Sumedho is a convention created by Theravada Buddhists. And so it's the conventional world is, changes, like the Bhikkhu Vihara is now just a wreck. And the Bhikkhu's Vihara is a wreck. And next, the Ubon room will be a wreck. And that's the way it is. Buildings, these wooden buildings were built in 1939. But then you can always build something new. Like this temple was built on two of those wooden structures that were here when we came in 1984. So people say, we want you to live at least to 100. And I realize that they mean well by that. But this body, I don't know, can really do that. We'll see. I'm fortunately quite healthy and have no great physical, I have no physical pain. So Jit Wang, or empty mind, means freedom, total liberation from the slavery of being attached to all that is formed and changing and dying. So when I tell people they're perfect already, I know they don't believe me, because they believe in their forms as the real world. But that's reality. Ultimate reality is you are that, the perfect consciousness, formless, peaceful, stainless, perfect. But that's not to be believed, it's to be realized for yourself. If you just take my word for it, then you're just caught in believing what Ajahn Sumedho told you. But the whole thing is to, in budgetang, you have to realize it for yourself. So these reflections are meant to be encouragements to meditate, to realize the directions are very clear. The Buddha wasn't evasive, it's very direct. My meditation on the Four Noble Truths all these years, the sermon the Buddha gave after his enlightenment, according to the Pali tradition, he gave the most banal talk, taking suffering. There is suffering. You'd think that's just taken for granted. Life is suffering. But when he talked to his 5 colleagues about what is realization, he realized there is suffering, just a very ordinary statement, you think that the 5 colleagues would have realized there is suffering for themselves. And there's the end of suffering. And that end of suffering is by investigating the conditions we identify with, the nature of desire. And so this realm that we identify with so strongly, the formed realm, is all about desire. So what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think, feel is there's the pleasant and the unpleasant, the beautiful, the non-beautiful. And we all want peace. But when we try to make peace with the ego is not a peaceful condition. We can idealize, make an ideal of peace, and it's a very beautiful idea. But samsara is not a peaceful state that we can expect to find peace in, because it is changing, changes all the time. Just the planetary change in the skies and the climate change that is very obvious at this time in our lives, and very much a subject for investigation. Can we stop the climate from changing, or do we want it to? If I called on all the devatas in the heavenly realms to stop climate change, do you think they could do it? It's just the nature of the planet, of the solar system. It's about change. It always has been. It's not something new to this century or this time. So that sape sankhara anicca, all conditions are impermanent. That is a wisdom teaching. All conditions, all forms are impermanent. So there's nothing left that you can cling to except let go of the conditions, of the desires. Not to get rid of them, because that's taking a stand of destruction, of annihilation. But just relaxing, letting go, realizing that you can't control the natural state of samsara. Its nature is like this, changing. And our bodies are part of that natural experience, that we're experiencing the changingness of sankharas, of phenomena. And so when we find out for ourselves we're not what we think or feel or what we've been told, I found it a liberation, a sense of freedom, of not having to go through life always being a personality, having a personality to defend or justify or criticize. To be nobody. So if we find out you're not an arahant, you're not a Buddha, you're not anything. if I felt I was an arahant, then I'd have to try to act like an arahant. And that would be a hard act to perform with a 92-year-old body. Well, imagine an arahant would act like. But if you're not anything at all, there's nothing to do. And that can be frightening for people because we're creatures that are always busy doing things, feeling frustrated when there's nothing to do. But it doesn't mean I don't do anything. It just means I don't feel I have to do anything anymore. I'm not acting from the idea I've got to get something, or get rid of something, control something, acquire something I don't have, or get rid of the faults that I can witness to in the unsatisfactoriness of the sankharas that I experience. So I've given enough reflection for today.
So we have a brief period of time for Q&A. Anyone has any questions? So it's very important at times like this not to be distracted or controlled by the emotions or the thoughts of the majority. So you're really missing out if you're someone who's interested in enlightenment, and instead of meditating with this talk, focusing on the talk, you're reading comments from random people and making up little bits of nonsense. You should really watch that and be aware of that. It's very, very stupid. It's a very stupid thing to do. I really enjoyed the pointer on not needing to do anything, and that not meaning that one doesn't do anything, but there's not this compulsive need, this idea that you have to or should do something. And it's a great question for inquiry into your own mind. Do I feel like I have to do something? When we're being in accord with silence or the way that it is, actually there's nothing that has to be done. There's nothing that validates or should be reifying this process of seeking. Seeking is the cause of suffering. There is no self. Self is a delusion, an illusion, just in the same way that a dream is not reality. It's an illusion. It's a temporary, disappearing appearance. If you're offended, you're wrong. If you think you're right, you're wrong. If you think you're wrong, you're wrong. You is wrong. You is false. You is a falsehood. I is a falsehood. The self is a delusion. So these teachings are not to be thought about. These are pointers for practice. If you're not meditating, thinking about it is useless. And in fact, what we learn when we practice meditation is that thinking about it is exactly what's causing all of our suffering, all of our confusion, all of this justification for seeking, for needing to do something, for needing to be someone, needing to rely on our preferences, needing to rely on our likes and dislikes, needing to rely on the stories that we are constantly telling from the view of self. That's a good way to say it. You is deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid. Relying on you is relying on delusion. Relying on the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is wisdom. Those with wisdom know how to meditate. Those who don't should practice taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and stop using any opportunity to make their ego the most important thing in the room. The practice of meditation is to stop thinking. It might help you to stop thinking if you focus on your breath, if you sit still, if you close your eyes. You'll have to see that for yourself. So these teachings, these pointers are not to be thought about or understood intellectually or understood through thought. They are to be practiced and realized. Our community here is a meditation community. If you don't know how to meditate, try. If you're here and unwilling to meditate, you're in the wrong place. Meditation is not about committing suicide. Meditation is about letting go aside, putting aside everything and letting go. If you cannot stop thinking, sit still and think about not thinking. Stop making your problem everyone else's problem, and instead make your own problem no problem by daring to be with it and not adding problems on top of problems endlessly, continuously. If we learn how to practice letting go aside, we don't have to think about practicing suicide. We see how unnecessary it is to suicide when letting go aside is much more convenient, much more accessible, much more realizable in the here and now. You can spend days, weeks, months, years. You can spend your entire life being basically the same person, the same character, the same conventional story, or you can practice letting go aside. Stop making this into something that relates to you. Just in the same way that if you go to college, it's not about you. What's being taught has nothing to do with you, your ego, your ideas, your opinions. So also, in a meditation environment like this, you are irrelevant. The toilet is more relevant than you in a meditation environment. At least people can shit in a toilet. Yourself, your ego, does nothing but fill the room with shit. Whereas a toilet receives and sends away the shit, your ego, our egos, produce shit. So it's a way to practice, not a way to position our ego and pretend that we're in a podcast or a Zoom call having a conversation. This is not a conversation. This is a pointer. These are instructions for you to practice meditation now. Bits and pieces of meditation go a long way in learning how to let go of your ego, yourself, your identity, to see through it. We're now going to go through the process of letting go and moving on. Just keep breathing. Just keep reorienting the attention onto breathing. Keep disregarding thoughts. Honey, is it raining? Can open the door? I want to hear the rain. Many people will, many Americans and Western people will need to be physically tortured to develop some understanding and also to develop some respect for the practice and for the environment. Most of the meditation centers that you'll find in America, opportunities to retreat or practice, are functionally physical torture zones. Now be human, this is the rain. What you're hearing is the rain. As a great master Sung San said, it is not the sound that is disturbing, it's you that is disturbing the sound. It is not the pain that is painful, it is you that is painful. People who come here and do not practice meditation are fools, and they have no business being here. It doesn't mean we have to hang ourselves upside down from the ceiling, but it's these bits and pieces of meditation, just like you can see. I'm practicing those. It is said that 5 fools can do the work of one wise man. But I wonder, what do we do with all of their shit? Okay, thank you, friends, for being here. Good luck with your practice. See you again soon. Honey, can you give me my speaker? Yeah. That's a microphone. The speaker, speak. Pui, pui, pui. Thank you. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, everybody. Take care. So the news that's come out for the millionaires, any millionaires, is we have a big interesting retreat on the Mekong Delta in November with who I consider to be a very advanced, very powerful master, Stephen Mugen Roshi, who's very, very informed about the stages of enlightenment, cessation. He's deeply trained in Zen, and then he also used to be a monk in like the Pa-Auk tradition. So he's organizing a retreat for, I think it's for 24 people, and it's traveling on the Mekong Delta starting in Vietnam in November. It's a 10-day retreat, and all inclusive, and $5,000 a pop. So if we have any millionaires out there that would like to spend 10 days traveling on the Mekong Delta with me and Stephen Mugen Roshi, we're welcome to reach out and we can set that up. Okay, that's in November. I believe it's the first and a half week of November, and then it's a 10-day retreat. And if you send me a message on WhatsApp, I can share the information with you. Okay? So I'm not going to spend $5,000 on that, but I'd be happy to go on it. So. Okay, I've been thinking about you, Chinath. Really? Is it a year from now rather than November this year? Well, there you go. All right. Well, there we go. So why don't we take a look? If we're thinking about joining this Stephen Muger retreat, we want to go in with a clear vision, right? So let's take a look. This is Stephen Mugen Snyder. And this is something on spiritual bypassing, so this is probably right down my alley.
As we begin to as we begin
Gets right into it.
as we begin the spiritual practice, we initially begin meditating in our case, and we start quieting down. We start turning toward our true nature, toward the absolute. And we do it little by little. We have to build our trust and open to that. And we begin to meditate longer. We begin to have experiences that are transcendent. We might have some serendipitous transformational impact, meaning we might begin to change. But we absolutely, the narcissism can grab a hold of our spiritual development and particularly attainments and begin wearing them like badges or the way the military wear medals. And this is another.
I just want to chime in here, Stephen. I hope you won't mind. I see this as it must be conditional. I mean, they even say that the Buddha's teachings were conditional and expedient, right, for the person. But I find myself, I've never related very much to stages, attainments. I've had certain experiences. I imagine I've gone through similar things to what this guy is describing. But for me, the whole presentation of the self, the solid self that goes through this journey, is not what what my mind gets a link into. And I've always been like that. That's always been my situation. Now, even if I am just a spiritually bypassed or empty-headed in the wrong way individual, that's fine. But I still say my leaning has always been towards something that's a little bit more spontaneous and effervescent, and not based in the self view or the solid self that's going through this development, the solid self that goes through this process. I find that a little bit offensive, but I think that it works very well for most Americans and most people who are very egocentric, especially successful egos. My ego was never very successful, so I just wanted to add that or comment that.
Other way of bypassing. We begin to reify and create a shell out of the spiritual me, the sense of self. And that's a lot shinier and nicer self-image. And so we really develop that, we work on it, we try to behave in ways that only show that spiritual self-image. And when people don't see it, we're upset. When they do see it, we're gratified, and we.
So this is one of the things that I've never seen. This is not, well, it is connected, because this is one of the first things I thought when I saw this Mekong Delta trip, and it also connects with Ajahn Brahm, although I think he's a little bit more purified in what he's doing. It's not money based, but I've always considered with these retreats, with these big masters, why there oftentimes only seems to be, if you can pay the money, we'll make sure that you have this great, conducive, convenient retreat experience, right? Where hopefully we can help you to the best of our abilities to wake up and then help others. But from my perspective, if you were at that level, like if I was a very high master, if I was a very great master, that had a lot of resources available, not just money, but just general resources. And there was a lot of people that would like to attend my retreat. I would actually be emphasizing not if they have enough money to pay me, but what are their capacities? What are their capabilities? Like, hey, look, my hands are up, I'm guilty, but, somebody spent 8 years as a Buddhist monk, they still want to go further, and now they're reaching out to participate in this retreat. And why would not the monetary profit that went to that retreat not also be in line with supporting people with those kinds of endeavors, right? Well, this is the thing, Travis, with Ajahn Sumedho. Nobody becomes enlightened, and Ajahn Sumedho was saying, if I wasn't Arahat, wow, what a burden that would be, because I'd have to act like an Arahat. So I don't know. I mean, I can say that I'm very aware of suffering. I can say that I very believe fully and have experience that seeking propagates suffering, even if it's spiritual seeking. That was my big Indian experience. And I've had that experience a couple times in my journey where the seeking became very, very intense and then, blew up in my face. But in terms of me being advanced compared with other people, I'm very, very hesitant to say anything like that at where I am. Which might be good, good that you don't think about it that way.
Lean into it. And so we really develop that, we work on it, we try to behave in ways that only show that spiritual self-image. And when people don't see it, we're upset. When they do see it, we're...
But so this is the other dynamic we want to watch at, Travis, is for you and me. Because, like for me, I can see my ego, it also gets off on, Sayadaw is a badass. Right? I don't follow, I'm not worshiping Alexis non-duality, or I'm not following Angelo Delulu. I'm keying into Ajahn Sumedho, etc. So that's also the spiritual ego of the seeker also gets a little bit of a profit by raising up their teacher. So we have to be aware of all these things. And, Travis, you have a call with Shelley. I encourage you to have a call with Shelley because she was here. She saw how mediocre I am. So she will fill you in. Not to be self-denigrating, but come on.
We really develop that. And this is another way of bypassing. We begin to reify and create a shell out of the spiritual me, the sense of self. And that's a lot shinier and nicer self-image. And so we really develop that, we work on it, we try to behave in ways that only show that spiritual self-image. And when people don't see it, we're upset. When they do see it, we're gratified and we lean into it. And as we develop, again, we can have the transcendent experiences. Most transcendent experiences, following the transcendent experience, will highlight whatever in our psychology is incongruent.
Beautiful. I love the incongruent. You guys know I'm a big fan of incongruent thoughts. And you and me both, Travis. I had to say that. I think this guy's very well read. I think he knows a lot of systematic detail about the path, both from a Zen informed side and also a Theravada formed side, especially about stages of enlightenment and fruits and fruitions in the steps of enlightenment. And I think he's also very well practiced, very deeply well practiced. And then combine that with the Western mind, the Western background. So that's why I'm very, like, I saw that retreat and I said, wow, I'd love to see what my skills are like in comparison and contrast with him, see if he can help. and also with the other people that show up on that retreat. So I would like to go. I would very like to go. 2027, that's a little that's a lot more expensive than $5,000, 2027, but we'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll do it. Let's do it.
I call this the stair-step method. We have either a psychological development, we resolve some issue of our psychology, or we have a transcendent experience, but it then opens us to whatever's out of sync with that realization. And that's why we need to work our psychological material, because we then work whatever's incongruent. As we work those issues and resolve.
Now, I agree with that. I agree with that about the psychological material, but I tend to not agree with the approach. So, like Angelo DeLulu's shadow work or interpersonal emotional work, working with psychological material based on the basis of the psychological material, I think is unskillful. Although that's also what you're doing. But what I'm saying is that if we have this drive and this dedication to transform that suffering and to do the work as it relates to that psychological material, we don't need to relate to it from a Western psychological perspective. And so we say, well, we have to because that's the grounding of that psychological material. But actually, we can go out of that grounding and take more full refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, becoming a monk or a nun, spending time with Sayadaw or Sayadaw's community, building up our community here. And that's where I lean. That's more what I align with. Now, in terms of accessibility to do that work, for Westerners, that's basically non-existent. So you have very small sanghas that are disconnected from the broader lineages and communities that have been continuing for hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years in the systems that they've built. But I feel like I got a lot of benefit from leaving that system and going into a new system that did not have a Western psychological basis. And I think the reification of the integrity of Western psychology itself is very problematic.
Then that prepares us for the next step, the next spiritual transcendent experience. And so it goes. But the reason that conceit is a later issue to work, for example, in the Theravadan model, the four-stage model of stream entry, once returner, non-returner, and
Okay, so the conceit is the I amness, or I would call it the thingness, right? So if you're noticing a thing, then there's some kind of affiliation to a thing, right? Possessionality, kind of like going from, the first stage of enlightenment, the stream entry is like realizing that this is not mine. This is not me. This doesn't belong to me. But it's kind of mine. It kind of seems like, there's a mineness to it. There's an ownershipness to it. And the conceit is that last thing to drop away. So for an arahat, there's no conception of ownership or possession or me-ness at all. Even in the first stage of enlightenment, that belief in the reality of a self, like I'm actually someone, like this idea that I can actually own this. What does that mean? That this is mine, this belongs to me. That doesn't mean anything, right? So that would maybe be the part of the dropping of identity view, but there still is a seeming, well, yeah, this is kind of, it doesn't belong to you. Does it?
arahant. Conceit is for the next step, the next spiritual transcendent experience. And so it goes. But the reason that conceit is a later issue to work, for example, in the Theravadan model, the four-stage model of stream entry, once returner, non-returner, and arahant, conceit is only worked and resolved at the arahant level. And the conceit is not normal conceit, the way we would refer to someone we saw and say, oh, they look very conceited. We're talking about spiritual conceit. And spiritual conceit is either about attainments, it can be about rank, it can be about a variety of things. But it's a conceit in the spiritual attainment itself. The sense, like you've mentioned, I'm now a meditator. If there's been some realization or awakening, I've had an awakening. I'm cooler than the people that haven't had awakenings. I'm in a special club. And so then also the sense of specialness comes in and starts working in this area. I need to be the most special.
Yeah, I would say that sounds a little bit, I'm probably speaking out of turn, but that sounds a little bit off to me how he described it. I would say that word, the specialness thing, is more in line with the things, right? Like the uniqueness or the quality of things, right? And then when the arahat, there's no quality of anything. But in terms of attachment to ranks or things like that, I don't know. It doesn't sound particularly right to me as what spiritual conceit is. I would go with my definition. I mean, that's probably my conceit.
In the Zen tradition, when I was young, people were really admired who could carry the lit incense very smoothly with no hand shaking. If the line of smoke was this beautiful straight line, we were all very impressed. When we had to ring the bell to go into interview, if someone rang it and it had this sweet sound, they must be attained. So there was a lot of cultural reinforcement of the spiritual self.
Yeah, this also is strange to me because now he's conflating or putting together spiritual conceit as an individual, right? An arahat is enlightened in themselves, so he's conflating spiritual conceit with ideas that other people have about how something seems refined. So that's a little bit weird to me. I don't know why he would do that.
Specialness, but we have to at some point work with this. As teachers, it's imperative that we work with this and put down whatever realization there is. That's part of the process of whenever there's realization, part of the integration is releasing that experience because it's gone. What if we're holding or replaying the experience, it's concept. So we're just replaying a memory of an awakening. We're not having another awakening. So this is why, like in the koan work, we have more koans. So whatever gets solved, somebody solves mu and has an awakening, then they get the next question they can't answer. So there's a way we're trying to dislodge that sense of I'm the coolest and specialist because there's koans you can't answer yet, or you can't answer satisfactorily. So this creates a kind of humility. It builds it in and appropriate. When I worked with Paul Sumedho, I asked him this about the jhanas. Is it a problem for people to feel this attainment specialness as they experience these different jhanas? And he said, sure, it's a possibility. That's why you don't let them linger. As soon as they finished and are established in first jhana, you get them into second jhana, and you get them, and you keep.
Travis, there's a couple responses to this, but we go back to the beginning. I was thinking about this, right? So it's conditional teachings. Even the great masters, they say the Buddha was giving conditional teachings, right? According to the student, according to the case. So Stephen Mugen Roshi is working with middle class, Zen practitioners, sectarian Zen practitioners. So anyways, it's conditional teachings, but to overly target, like you could say, well, if you kill the teacher, I guess you solve all the koans. And that wouldn't necessarily be true in terms of the practice of the koans, but it might be true in terms of that interrelationship with the teacher. But the role of the interrelationship with the teacher is just for people to continue refining and maturing their understanding. And the koan method is a way to do that. And he's not, the mu would be more of a huato. So solving a huato is like great doubt exploding. It's not necessarily about a teacher, but the koan work that Stephen Mugen Roshi is talking about here is they basically give you a koan, and then that hooks you, and you want to solve it, and then you go for your interview with the teacher, you try to answer it, and they see, I guess they see if your mind is unbounded or not. I don't fully understand it. This guy is probably way more advanced than me in ways that we can't comprehend. So, but there's a lot of fairness in what he's saying. You know, it's never black and white.
Moving people on the path. And again, each time it's, I don't know how to do this. So it helps break down that specialness of, well, I've attained first jhana. Yeah, but you haven't attained any other jhanas. So,
you know, and that can also be the silliness of sectarianness and our affiliation with that, because everybody has some affiliation with sectarianness, right? What tradition, what practice, what teachers, etc. So, you know, it's not like the Buddha taught the koans are the only way to be realized or to develop. So it's just a training method that they use, and he's speaking within that container.
it works this way, but it doesn't resolve until the sense of self is seen through and dropped. And that in the Zen tradition, this is the Daigo Teite realization, what's called full or final awakening, which it's not, but it's a significant demarcation. And the same with the Arahant. There's a dropping of the sense of self, there's the dropping of sense desire, there's no motivation for sense desire from the Arahant realization. So it's a very sophisticated place, but ideally you have it modeled in your Sangha where people can be appreciated for attainment, but they can't be held up as the most special. One place I practiced, the folks who had had awakening, had confirmed Kensho, got a certain article of clothing to wear that made them different from the rest of us. So you could tell everybody who had had Kensho, of course, they
I don't know. I think it's a little bit silly, and it's also combined with kind of a cultural appropriation, I would say. And the way that it works in the real Sangha is it's a mind transmission. So you can't actually see it or know it unless you have it. You know, you can't recognize it unless you've recognized it in someone else. Like somebody said, you can't see those who are above you. So you can't rely on your own perception. But it can be a model. You know, I think like saying that kind of system of wearing a garb, if it's a true system, right, then like I would say that the role, the identity, like the Buddha saying that person is a Sotapanna, that person is a Sakyagami, in a Sangha that was led by the Buddha, that could be very effective and helpful, because the people could say, oh, that person is, I don't like that person, I don't agree with that person, etc. But that Buddha says that person is a Sotapanna or a stream enter, etc. So I'll kind of put my ego aside. So then the question becomes, is that Sangha led by the Buddha, right? And if it's not, then it can be a little bit silly, a little bit artificial.
were really admired, and we all wanted to have the little doohickey on our robes. So there's problems with it that are built into these systems, but
imagine, right? Imagine how convenient that would be for our spiritual ego, and of course for helping others. But if there was a Sangha where you could show up and then they'd say, oh, you have Kensho, we can see that you've had Kensho, so you can join our Sangha, you can be a part of it, and you also get to wear a little thing. Now that's where the silliness comes in, because that's not how those systems work. They don't care about anything like that. It's people who've volunteered, people who've been there for long enough, and then they have Kensho or not, they get it. But anybody who just wants to show up and be a part of the Sangha, fuck them. So that's where it gets a little bit silly. That's where we get a little bit rough and tough, right? Oh, conveniently, the person that donated, there's some story about Steven Seagal, who some people say I'm starting to resemble him. Steven Seagal, he donated like a lot of money to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and then, surprise, surprise, it turns out he's a tulku, or reincarnated lama. So you can see Steven's face here, right? Everybody, we can all see Steven's face very clearly here. Now, is that the face of an arahat? I do want to go on the Mekong Delta, so don't, anybody who knows Steven, don't send him this video. But that's our guy right there. That's Steven.
That's why, to me, it's so important that we engage this material directly. That's why I've written like Liberating the Self, because I want people to not only have awakening, but to work the psychological material directly and deeply. It's essential to the process.
All right, so that's, I know, I really believe that. We're talking about Kensho. That doesn't have anything to do with you and your friends or the people that pay the bills or what schedule somebody's following or how good they carry around the fucking incense stick. It doesn't have anything to do with that. So if you've got a model where the people get to wear a little, and if you're in that kind of environment, I don't know if anybody here's ever been in that environment, a residential practice community, but if you get to wear like a gold or whatever color they give them, and everybody wants to be getting Kensho and whatever, man, that's a juicy thing, right? So the fact that you can't just show up and say, oh, I want to come and practice here. Can't you see I have Kensho? I mean, that's absurd. That's such a loser environment, right? 100%. That's where Seattle excels, because not just for people who have Kensho, anybody can show up and put on the robe, put on the saffron robe. If they're not in a position to be a bhikkhu, they become a novice. People respect and support their journey, and so that's the dream, that's the vision of Tabarwa, to flesh that out and develop that out. But we need a lot of money, everybody. We need millions of dollars. So maybe take time. We'll see. Sayadaw's next step is the development of the meditation center in Myanmar, in Naypyidaw, nearby the new city, the new capital of Myanmar, which is Naypyidaw, the military city that they built. So any merits that we've made during this session, let's dedicate them towards Myanmar and the development and the success of Myanmar. And I do hope that they figure things out and they develop quickly over the next 10 years, 20 years. Well, W's in the chat for that, Travis. I think we can all relate to that. Yeah, the enlightenment or the deep realization, it doesn't have to do with any particular group of people or any particular tradition. And that's why in some way, I respect that silly tradition, because it has within it a principle that could be actualized or could be practiced in a more radical way. If it was run by the Buddha, if it wasn't built on cultural appropriation. But the open door policy as well, it's not about being foolish, right? It's like compassion isn't about, taking school shooters into new schools with knives. It's not about that. So we can have a open door policy with a closed door. You have to knock. What are we supposed to? I'm supposed to be awake in samadhi 24/7, sitting outside in the rain. It's a good idea. But then what are we going to do about the rain? Okay, so this is a question on Stephen Mugen's video. No answer expected here. This is a comment. No answer expected here, but I sort of dropped out of meditation and don't have a great reason except too much going on, etc. I wonder about gatekeepers like you with high skill levels would in the past select good candidates for certain levels of attainment. On the other hand, it may be something everyone has a chance at. We are all from the same stardust after all. But my question is, if my brain is not wired like a healthy adult, borderline or narcissist or other related conditions, can I actually be enlightened? I live on my own. This is what Stephen replied. He said, I do not have a good answer. I believe all people who earnestly are drawn to practice and are willing to work on the personality can be the location of awakening. It does appear that those people firmly rooted in the personality structures and unwilling to change would have minimal chance for awakening. Right? But what is that? Does that have anything to do with money? You see what I'm saying? So it's like setting up a system where and I think he does have a system where your first call is free, like a consultation call, and then you can go into, you start paying him money, and there probably are sponsorships. So I'm not going at Stephen directly. I don't mean to do that, but like I said before, the system of identifying good candidates. And then we have, this is Mommy. I don't know if anybody knows Mommy. Not my mommy. I don't have a mommy, really. Maybe Guan Yin. But this is Mommy. And Mommy is not a particularly advanced practitioner, but he's energetically very cool guy, and he's very passionate about the path in his own way. And he recently started a school community called School of Awareness on school.com. It's like where you people do courses, sell courses and stuff. And so it's School of Awareness, and it says, this is an invitation to explore the art of living meditatively. Here we help each other grow. Inside the community, you'll get access to Meditation Basics course, 7-day meditation mastery challenge, guided meditation, how not to live program, live Q&A calls with Mommy, etc. And that's $50 a month. And he's already had 9 members. So you do the math. So that's a good monthly program. that he has set up. This is his live stream right now. He usually just sits there, and he has a very furrowed brow. And that's something you want to watch out for, your furrowed brow. Don't let that get a hold of you. So anyways, that's Mommy. He's got great hair. Then we have something like this. That's strange. This is another great master, a very great master. If you can figure out how to join his Zooms, I highly recommend that you do. This is Ajahn Suchart.
Welcome to another Dhamma meeting where we will discuss the Buddhist practices of charity, morality, and meditation. Everyone is welcome to join. IB, are you still in Pattaya?
Good evening, Prajan. Yes, I'm still in Pattaya. I'm going back to Bangkok tomorrow night.
Okay. I'll go to our first.
Anyways, what I mean to say is there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of practices out there. It's just that reorientation process that we need to go through, right? We're serious about the path. We're serious about awakening. We're serious about ending suffering. But you have this certain psychological material that hasn't been worked through yet. And so the inconvenience is that you have to be all the more serious about working through that. You have to be all the more careful, right? Because instead that carefulness becomes ingrained. And even when we get farther on the path, don't become confident, don't become overconfident or arrogant. Right? That fartherness on the path is a kind of carefulness. Yeah, Ajahn Suchart is very great master. Very great. He is actually the kind of like the English-speaking head of the Dhamma Yut tradition, which is the Thai forest tradition. Not Ajahn Chah, but the Thai forest tradition that I ordained in, the Dhamma Yut Nikaya. Now, I never met him, sadly, but I did meet him once on Zoom, and he was very kind and very curious and very open, and kind of paused the Zoom meeting in a certain sense to ask me where I was. I was in New York at the time with Sumedho, and he was very kind. I remember I asked him a question. Yeah, don't forget Gilbert. Gilbert's great. I asked him a question, and I said, because Sumedho talks about like detaching from the precepts, and I was a younger monk, and so I asked him, I said, so if you're a monk, you're a bhikkhu, very stupid question, if you're a bhikkhu and you're not following any of the precepts, or you're regularly breaking all the precepts beside the parajikas, right, what kind of bhikkhu are you? You know, so there's four or five parajika rules that if you break them, you not only are you not a monk anymore, but you can never become a monk again legally in monasticism. And he said, well, if you're breaking all the precepts, you're not a monk, period. So kind of a cut-through answer. All right, Travis, can you talk about the wisdom around going deep in practice versus broad in regards to many teachers or one? It's just consistency. It's just consistency, because if you're more consistent about something, you'll be more specific or particular or concentrated about what it is that you're so consistent about and concerned with, right? So it's like going to the gym. Well, we don't need a bunch of models and practice plans and, are you going to rest 2 days a week or 3 days a week? When's your off day? When's your on? You just need to go to the gym. And so the consistency and what I was talking about originally was there's all these resources available. So as long as they're the good resources, the real resources, you don't need to think about it. You don't need to worry about it. You just need to show up and go into it and practice with it. So the problem that people get is that they're not practicing with it, and I know Chinath has dealt with this with Hillside Hermitage, is that they're going to it and they're thinking about it, right? And if this thinking is happening within the context of that tradition, well, you're going to have more support to let go of that thinking. But if you go into it, if you go with these things as a practice, then you don't need to think about it, and you get the benefits. You get the deepening, you get the practice that goes along with it. And it's the same practice regardless of the teacher. The specificism or the particular teacher is what you're doing more self-sacrifice with, concerned with your body or mind, concerned with your generosity or your volunteering, which means volunteering your body and mind, right? So the Buddha set up the system to volunteer your body and mind, to give your body and mind to the Sangha. And it also connects with accessibility. So it's for a lot of people here, it's not a matter of I'm the best teacher in the world or I'm your perfect teacher, it's just accessibility. If Ajahn Suchart opened up his doors and was giving flight tickets to everybody, well, we're going to go there. Dr. Rob's going to be sitting next to you meditating, in so many ways.
As we begin the spiritual So part of what I want. So part of what I wanted to turn on. So part of what I wanted to turn our attention to today after the love practice was I really wanted to point to the importance of cessation. Cessation is really anchored in the Theravada tradition. It's the culmination experience. Cessation is another term for nibbana or nirvana. So it's the experience when one either accesses it independently, which can happen. It can happen through guided meditation. It can happen once one completes all 8 of the jhanas or the deep concentration meditations, or if one does the entire samatha and vipassana path of Theravada. Those are the times when the experience of cessation is a potential. And cessation is more than an experience. It is a kind of, it can be a kind of awakening. What I've seen with students is that whether it culminates in an awakening depends upon the duration of the time spent with cessation being predominant. And cessation, when cessation is present, there's nothing. There's no perception, there's no awareness, there's no consciousness, there's no thought, there's no identity, there's absolutely nothing. There's no dreams, there's no anything. So it's a time of complete blackness. The closest we have to this would be a dreamless sleep, where you're sleeping and there's absolutely no dreams, there's no nothing. Cessation, as I said, is more than an experience. And to say we experience cessation isn't really an accurate languaging, because as we progress closer to cessation, identity will fall away, the sense of self will go dormant. Finally, as we approach close to cessation, I've coined the term the cessation waiting room, because people can get close enough where there still is awareness and consciousness. They can feel the draw, the tractor beam of cessation inviting them, inviting awareness and consciousness to enter. And each of us in that area, in the cessation waiting room, needs to give an affirmative answer or have a yes as part of our system for cessation to happen. And if we're not quite there, if we can feel some hesitation because we can tell that awareness and consciousness will shut off and we don't have the capacity to restart these, it can raise some really existential fears around extinction, around annihilation. And extinction and annihilation are deeper fears even than death is for most people. So there's a lot of primal fear, some real deep gut fear when we get near this, or there can be. And this is also where the role of the absolute love plays in. If we're doing these practices like on
So I've got a bone to pick with this guy. So I don't know if anybody here feels like they've experienced cessation before. I think that I may have experienced cessation in this when I was in India, when I was at the Mahakumbh. And it was just for a brief moment. So Stephen has said that, you know, he says like the length of duration depends on if you have an awakening, right? But I've also heard Stephen said that at one point I don't know if it was 30 minutes or longer or whatever, but he was at Pa'uk and he said, okay, I'm going to go into cessation for this period of time. And then he said afterwards, like it was too much and he wasn't ready for it. And so his head was fucked up for a long time. So what kind of awakening is that? Right? And this, I believe that this is mostly accurate, what I'm saying, in terms of what Stephen has said. So I think that that's maybe a little bit off, but goes into this conditional teaching model of his middle class Zenists, Zen sectarian people. So, but yeah, when I was in the Mahakumbh in India, it was a very active process going on. And I was all alone, and it was in many ways horrible, but there was a very deep spiritual seeking and focus in the mind. And the mind was going wild. My identity was entirely destabilizing and coming apart mentally. And then it was like everything blinked out of existence, and then I came back. But then I came back. I didn't come back in a monastery. I came back in the Mahakumbh around a bunch of Indian people. Indian people don't like Buddha. They don't like that. So it was a very kind of traumatic experience, I'd say.
On the 3-week awakening retreats, I'll do guided meditations up to and around cessation. But I'm always
I don't know. I think I don't know what he's talking about there. Maybe he's talking about he's giving a guided meditation. And I guess I've never felt this much, but I guess I get it. When you're doing a guided meditation, it's like you're transmitting your mind. So maybe I think Stephen does feel like and probably can go into cessation. I don't know. But, so like guided meditation up to the point of him entering cessation, bringing other people to that point because he's bringing himself to that point. No. Indian people don't like Buddha at all. It's an entirely different dynamic because the Indian culture, the Indian like psychosocial culture is all about worshiping gods. And you see it in this way, right? So it's like for monks in Buddhist societies, they want the monks to be at peace. They want them to eat well. They want them to sleep well. They want them to meditate well. They want them to, be taken good care of and be clean and all that stuff. In the Hindu culture, they want their sadhus to be burning their hands off and cut their feet and their legs off and be covered in dirt and all those things, and they're doing all this god worship, this psychosocial god worship and stuff. So they don't respect Buddha. They don't look for Buddha. They don't recognize Buddha. They recognize gods and these beings that they worship. No, Buddhists don't worship Shiva. Okay, Travis says, I must say Nirodha Samapatti was felt about 8 years into my sitting practice, sitting in the attic of the Good Earth Food Co-op where I worked. Now I'd say delicately I recognize cessation daily, but maybe I'm high, not literally, of course. Well, there you go. I don't know. Close your eyes, there's cessation, maybe. I don't know. He describes it as black, and that was the experience. It was like the whole universe, the body and the mind, just disappeared, black. And there was it's like a memory of non-perception. It's not like I experienced that. And then when I came back for a brief instant, all of that mental excitement and disruption and destabilization disappeared, but then it fucking got filled in by all of these Indian people that were surrounding me, because I was attracting a lot of attention. This white guy, I just brought my robe and my bowl and my noise-canceling headphones there. It was horrible. It was very, very horrible.
Including in the same day, guided meditation.
But if that was cessation, that's probably a unique way to enter cessation. But it's probably nothing.
On love, so that the love is steeped in our system and in the field of the retreat. So people feel safer, they feel more connected as they approach this significant experience. But cessation is also the center. To me, it's conceptually, I'd say cessation is the center of the universe. So cessation is what animates, enlivens the absolute. So cessation is critical to this. And we could even say that we as sentient beings, or all beings, emanate from cessation, moving through the absolute, unmanifest and manifest, and come into being when there's the right spark of nothingness, emptiness, and presence and love, that it can come into being. And then when life ends, when this body runs out in whatever fashion it does, consciousness and awareness return back to the absolute and back to cessation. So this is really the hub in many ways of our existence, and this is why it's an important inclusion. To me, this is what's important about continuing to talk about and teach about and practice with cessation, because I want to keep it in our spiritual vernacular. I want to be able to have this as part of our, not only our discussion, but also our experience. And I've said before that this is something that I'm expecting of the Zen teachers that I train. People who complete transmission with me will have had not only deep Zen awakenings, but will have had significant cessation experiences too, because I want them to anchor both awakenings in their teaching. I think it's critical to have both. And of course, a lot of the traditions don't have that. The Theravadan tradition doesn't have the Zen awakenings as part of its map, nor does the Zen map have cessation as part of its mapping. When I was writing,
I think teaching mapping is ridiculous. Emphasizing mapping is ridiculous. Of course, there's a conditional teaching, so the conditional is ridiculous.
the book Demystifying Awakening, I talked with a number of the Zen teachers, different sensei and roshis, about their experiences with working with koans and awakening, and I asked them about cessation. And a number of the teachers would talk about having blackout periods. Sometimes in the resolution of particular koans, there might be a blackout period. Others had it in some other fashion. But the one thing that was interesting was almost no one had had a sustained experience. They were all quite short. So it was like cessation was embedded, but it wasn't really a deep experience, or wasn't experienced that way. In the one book, Liberating the Self, I've got the different awakening stories in there, and one of them, a couple of them, are of students having cessation experiences. So I want to have that again as part of the understanding, not only of this Sangha, of the Awakening Dharma Sangha, but also I'm hoping to have that infused in Buddhism more broadly, which remains to be seen what will happen. But anyway, so this is an important topic for us, and why with this group, I not only work with the love, I also work with the unmanifest a lot, and particularly cessation, because it's a critical piece of the mapping of reality, really. So let me just pause here and see if there's any questions before we meditate again. The awakeness, if it's a sustained enough experience, which at this point the model I'm holding is it needs to be a minimum of 30 minutes to be a sustained experience, then the qualities of awakeness that I've written about in my new book, Living Awakeness, will be manifesting. I'll be seeing those presenting and opening up in the students. I mean, even if they were there before, there's a different way they show up. They show up as universal and have an amplification to them. So, yeah. So anyway, right now that's the working model that I have based on the experiences of students to date. My understanding is the Nirodha Samapatti is let's say, a portal into the absolute. It can be a portal into cessation. But typically, as I understand it in Theravada Buddhism, if one is a third stage of the four stages, so be a non-returner, then they're believed to be able to have the access to go from the access concentration of eighth jhana to open up and enter into the absolute. Again, whether that manifests into a cessation experience doesn't seem to always happen. Of the few folks I know that have found the portal of Nirodha Samapatti, some have just abided in the absolute, and others cessation has arisen for. So, and again, technically I could be wrong about some of this. This is my understanding from some experience and from discussion with others and a little bit of reading of text, but
Well, if you could be wrong, then you're not right, are you? Anyways, I hope I'll get to go to his barnyard retreat, his river barnyard retreat. Well, you have to give some space. You have to give some credence because he's working within the Western paradigm. He's working without the structure of the lineage of monastics, and he's building his own structure for these people that are ultimately outside of the broader Sangha. So he has to do a lot of work in mind mapping and creating these structures for people to climb onto, these lattices to climb onto and work with. So that's, that it makes sense that would be doing that. And giving encouragement, etc. Looking at his website here. I'll post a website for everybody if you want to look into this retreat, the Barnyard River Retreat. It's got a nice website. It's got a retreat in Michigan, residential, long retreat, 20-day retreat in Michigan. But it's great when you have the teachers like this because they're really giving people a lot to think about, and they're creating a teacher-student dynamic with a lot of language based on insight, and it's a rich practice environment, if that person does have realization, because there's a lot for people to grab onto, there's a lot for people to be wrong about, and that gives people more confidence to share and expose themselves, and it's enjoyable to be in that kind of environment. 20-day retreat in Indiana in September. And then 2027. Most of these retreats are in 2027. But I'm looking at the barge journey through Vietnam and Cambodia. And so you go to the one-on-one. Okay. There's monthly Sangha gatherings. There's a lot of offerings here. But another thing is that the bar is just not very high in the spiritual world, the Western spiritual world. It's a low bar. So, but I think this guy's pretty good. So you can get a 15-minute introductory consultation with him. I think I already signed up for one, but I didn't show up. So, not because I was sleeping or whatever. I don't follow much of a schedule. So for 25 minutes, sustained, $75. So a weekly or a monthly 25 meeting for $25, that's a good deal for a guy like this. I would pay for that. If you don't show up, you get 50% back. That's a good deal. You can email them. If I could do same day, like if I could schedule a call in 30 minutes from now, I'd show up to that. But this weeks ahead of time, I mean, how do you do that? How do people do that? You should stop thinking, reason. But see, this is the trick, Asmiel. So it's easy to say this from our side of the cushion, but what happens when we're sitting on the same cushion and then everybody's around us? Then we get our ass whooped. So that's very realistic, and that's a joy as well. Now, in terms of is he want to whoop somebody's ass? No. Do you want to whoop somebody's ass? No. But sometimes it comes down to that. That's the Dharma combat kind of has to be spontaneous, because if it's true Dharma combat, neither person, neither Baba wants to compete, has an idea for competition. So it has to happen spontaneously. I've tried to get around that before, and it just doesn't really work. I remember one time I called the Korean guy, the Korean American guy, who's very good too. What's his name? Anybody remember the Korean American guy? He's quite famous. He's in Germany now. Keep us in the moment. The keep us in the moment guy. Keep us in the moment. It's Hyonggyak Sunim. How could I forget Venerable Hyonggyak Sunim? I just don't like the closed door policy. If you're a good master, if you're a good master and you're training other people, be good practitioners, this should open the door, not close it. Okay, you say, well, we've got to put everybody through their paces. Okay, well then you do that with your practice. It's nonsense. I reached out. At one point I was thinking about going and visiting him. I filled out their little form because you can't reach anybody. And I just got a message back saying, no, you're not coming here. But it's not personal. It's a principle of it in terms of Sangha. And then we see how that's applied to just like people who are practitioners, people who are on the path. Imagine when it comes to a homeless guy or somebody who actually needs help, and it's disgusting. What is this? There's no videos on the channel. What happened to Hyonggyak Sunim? What's going on? There's no videos on the digital Zen of Hyonggyak Sunim. Let's go to the website. I had a whole dynamic with Hyonggyak Sunim and Zen Master Poha Sunim and the guy from Just Be Temple. Because the guy from Just Be Temple follows Hyonggyak Sunim, and then I was like messaging Hyonggyak Sunim, telling him that Poha Sunim said he was a pussy. It's fantastic. Mirror of Zen courses. These are free courses. Contact. And it just has a contact form. So we do want to make sure Dr. Rob's WhatsApp number is on the website. We don't want... we certainly don't want Jim Newman showing up our Sangha here. Okay, let's look at this. Let's watch this one. It's very good style.
A great Indian sage once said, "The world
Can barely hear him. Turn up the volume. What's going on?
only true self
What the hell?
is real. The world is true self." Zen means understanding my true self. What am I? When I was born, where did I go? When I die, where do I go? Now, we are living in this world, very chaotic. Many things coming, going, changing, non-stop. So much change and movement, so much chaos, so many shadows. But that's just
So I'll just say,
form of this world.
I think this guy's performative, but he could be performative and run a sangha in a way that I don't align with. Doesn't mean that he can't kick my ass. You got to think about it that way. That's what I'm always telling people here as well. I might not be your guy. I might not be the cool guy. I might not be the smart guy, whatever. It doesn't mean that I can't kick your ass. And this path, this spiritual path, is about getting your fucking ass kicked. It's not about who you like. It's not what it's about. It's got nothing to do with that. Well, I don't think this. That's not what the path is about. You haven't practiced meditation. You haven't taken this stuff seriously. Fuck you. I have. You're not serious about it to be interested in serious practitioners. You got no business here. You got no business in Zen. Okay, now this is another thing I want to mention to people, all right? Take your fakest non-duality, mindfulness, spiritual woo-wah teacher, right? You get your Kundalini enema out there in Bali. If a very serious practitioner, okay, I'm just going to talk about myself, somebody who's spent years as a monk and has taken meditation very seriously. I'm going to admit, I haven't been to a meditation retreat in a while. I haven't done formal, intensive meditation in a while. Okay, I'll admit that. But I'm saying somebody who's been down that path and that journey, right, shows up for the Kundalini enema in Bali or the Reiki sound bowl sex retreat, you're going to get a lot of benefit from that. So I say, I look at Hyungyak Sunim here, and Master Puaha says he's a pussy, and and I say he's performative and inaccessible. I don't like the way he does things. If I go to his retreats, not only am I going to get my ass kicked, but I'm going to get a lot of benefit. Okay, same with Alexis Non-Duality or whoever. You show up and you go and meditate and you practice with it, you're going to get a lot of benefit. So we can have these views, we can have our opinions. This person doesn't make good coffee or whatever, but it's still coffee, and it's up to you how you practice with it. Same with Thich Nhat Hanh Sangha. Anybody here, look, Google Plum Village Sangha, right? Plum Village Sangha. There's Plum Village Sanghas, Thich Nhat Hanh little practice groups all around the country, all around the world. There's a bunch of them, right? So you show up to one of them, you're used to the dock, and now you got a bunch of flippy, flancy, rainbow-wearing, people singing around, dancing songs. Well, that's probably going to be good for you to practice with that. So you got to drop that mindset. Oh, the Buddhist temple around me is full of a bunch of Cambodian people. Okay, well, go there and practice with it. It's the same reason I get on Chanath's back. I said, when's the last time you went to the Plum Village Sangha in Toronto, Chanath? When's the last time you went to a practice group? Okay, I don't care what kind of practice group it is. So you show up and you practice with it, and then if you have a chance to have a conversation to share your position, your understanding, well, how wonderful that is. It's got to stop making excuses for why that's not ideal, it's not the right time, etc., etc. They're not advanced enough for me, they don't get it enough for me, the way that they talk about it isn't right. That's a bunch of hoo-ha. Okay? Now, if you have a better resource, truly, to show up and give your body and mind into practice, well, that's fine. You're going to be busy. But if you don't, find a resource that's accessible to you. And that's why, a lot of these people that follow Angelo Delulu or these non-duality, they don't have anything to say. They don't want to be challenged. So even if they were to come across this, the best thing they can do is leave a little comment if they disagree. Okay? And as you get further down the path, there's not really anything to disagree about. You're either meditating or you're not. You're either accepting that Sneven, Snyder, Snogan, Roshi is probably a lot more advanced than you, or you're not. But you don't need to perpetuate these kind of thoughts. How are you giving? How are you practicing? How are you showing up? How are you volunteering? How are you going on pilgrimage? How are you watching a movie? How are you watching YouTube? How are you doing everything? And if what you're doing, what you're naturally doing, isn't working, you got to do something else, don't you? And so the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is that something else. That's primary purpose is to bring an end to suffering, to have the primary job of kicking your fucking ass and chewing bubblegum, but oopsie whoopsie daisy, there ain't no bubblegum in here. And so the teaching is to teach you how to kick your own ass, not how to put flowers up your rear end, like Alexis Non-Duality does. I'm not here to put flowers anywhere. Okay? That's your job. That's other people's job. My job is to suffer. My job is to be aware of suffering, to be aware of that lack of specialness. So we come at Stephen, but it's in the same lines of it might not be what you appear to be. Well, yeah, because you're not. So how could you be what you appear to be? Same as what Siala Amoha was talking about. Look, I didn't watch the whole video, okay? I saw that, I know Siala Amoha, I know she's pretty good. She just finished her 1-month retreat with Seattle, so I said, okay, I'm going to post the video. And I got the topic, what they were saying. No, we're not special. Nobody's special. That's Buddhism. That's Zen. Only the Buddha is special. And the Buddha is special because he's not somebody. Have you looked? Why don't we start there, Red Pumpkin? Have you looked? Send me your address. Send me your city. Send me your town. We'll figure it out. It's about your degree of willingness to sacrifice your body and mind for practice. I can support you there. It's like I can't help myself meditate if I'm not willing to sacrifice whatever else I'm doing to meditate. There's nothing I can do because I'm not willing to sacrifice. The more that, okay, well, send me what city, what village you're in, and I'll look into it, okay? I want this. I want to be this. I want to be at this level. I want to have this understanding. I want to feel better than I feel right now. You want to feel better than you feel right now, you're going to end up in blackface with a banana shirt on, screaming and yelling at a bunch of random people that don't give two nothings about you that don't respect you. You don't want to end up like that, do you? Okay, Croatia isn't specific enough. Of course there's Buddhist places in Croatia. I need the city, I need the town. Unless they have a good train system or something in Croatia.
Romeo is bleeding, but you can't see his blood. It's nothing but some feelings that this old dog kicked up. I have been raining since you left me, now I'm drowning in the flood. You see, I've always been a fighter, but without you, I give up. I can't sing a love song like the way it's meant to be. Well, I guess I'm not that good anymore, but baby, that's just me. And I will love you, baby, always, and I'll be there forever and a day. Always, I'll be there when the sun don't rise and the heavens burst. We don't lie, it'll be on my mind, and I love you always. Now the pictures that you left behind, there's memories of the different lives. Some that made us laugh, some that made us cry, that made you have to say goodbye. What I'd give to run my fingers through your hair, to touch your lips and hold you near. You say your prayers, try to understand. I've made mistakes, I'm just a man. When he holds you close, when he pulls you near, when he says the words you've been needing to hear. I wish I was him with these words of mine to say to you till the end of time that I will love you, baby, always, and I'll be there forever and a day. Always, if you told me to cry for you, I could. If you told me to die for you, I would. Take a look at my face, there's no price I won't pay to say these words to you. Well, luck in these loaded dice. But baby, if you can give me just one more try, we can pack up our old dreams and our own lives. We'll find a place where the sun still shines, and I will love you, baby. Always, and I'll be there forever and a day. Always, I'll be there till the stars don't shine, till the heavens burst and the words don't rhyme. I know when I die, you'll be on my mind, and I'll love you always. Always. Upstairs neighbors are giving us the business. But, you know, that goes in as well. I don't know if you're still here, Travis, but that goes in as well for the teaching model of Stephen Niger Roshi, is that he's teaching in a way where people won't fall into these self-convincing loops that are so problematic in Western spirituality as well. So I'm sure that's an important, informed aspect of his work. Well, I can tell you what to do with it. Let it go. The person, my neighbor, has, I don't know, maybe they have some emotional issues, as we all do. Now, this is a guy we can take a look at. This is Doug's Dharma, and I'm not sure about this, so let's take a look.
I recently saw a...
It's kind of an interesting guy.
comment online to the effect that I'd lost somebody's interest because I seemed to be making a judgment about what true Buddhism consists in based on a curated set of texts and interpretations that I personally resonate with. This is a criticism that I get every once in a while, and it's worth my taking seriously. There's something right in it, and also something that's very importantly wrong. Well, what's right about it? Yes, I do tend to focus on a particular slice of the Buddhist tradition. I make judgments about what I find compelling, no question. But what's wrong about the critique? The inference that this means that I'm claiming that the slice of the tradition that interests me is the true or authentic Buddhism. That is not at all my intention. So I want to spend this video explaining why those two things, that is, my personal focus and the claim that my personal focus is the real Buddhism, aren't at all the same move. Now, I believe that what I'm studying and discussing is a true Buddhism, but that's a very different claim. Some years ago, I did a video on what is authentic Buddhism. That video took up a related question from inside the tradition. That is, what do the early suttas themselves say about authenticity? This video is going to be different, a kind of companion video to that one. It'll be about the meta-level question, that is, what does it mean to study early Buddhism at all? Is the category itself a claimed authenticity? Early Buddhism is a category from historical critical scholarship. It's not normative. It refers to what scholars can reconstruct about the teachings
He's reading, right? He's reading a script, right?
closest in time to the Buddha himself.
Let's zoom in on his reflection in his glasses. But I think he writes a script and then he reads it. So I'm not going to spend my time listening to that. Is that a projector? I don't know. Yeah, he's not what I'm interested in, but I think he knows a lot about Buddhism. So please do check our website, Red Pumpkin, for our recommended authors, recommended reading list. But it's better that you read Thich Nhat Hanh. Start with Thich Nhat Hanh. And we have a very old video, about 5 years ago, our Thich Nhat Hanh reading group on the book No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering. So that's what I would recommend that you read. Alan Watts is somebody who tends to convince people that they understand a lot more than they do, and it's very problematic. So, how about the cooking, honey? You cook already? Yeah. Already cook? How far are you from Hartovsky, Red Pumpkin? Hartvosky. Outside of Zagreb. Chan Master Zarko Ardrivikek. He studied with Shifu Shengyan, so there you go. That's good. Well, he's a Dharma holder, one of the Dharma heirs of Master Shengyan, so that's where you get out to. Okay, so you can go. Red Pumpkin, go to this place. Here's the website. Do everything that you can to go there and reach out to them, and stop relying on your own thinking about it. You need to follow instructions and do it. There's the website. The black spot is on our face, but we keep wiping the mirror. We do have a new Jim Newman video. I don't know where that might take us, but we can take a look.
So that's about all that can be said about what we're talking about here. But because there's an assumption, there's a question, the response is, there is just this. It is what's longed for. It's needlessly what it is. There's an experience that appears in this, what is, which can be identified or known, or is knowing. The sense of being a person is the sense of being in the body, separate from everything else, either in the body or as the body. Now that experience arises out of a contracted energy in the body. That contracted energy has the sense of being here, and out of that comes the entire story of I am here and what my life is about. Now fundamentally, that experience of being here is one of being separate from everything else. And simply the appearance of that experience is one of being discontented, one of being cast out of paradise. And the experience of that I am is one of this being a job, this being fundamentally having a need. And the need is for me to become. And in that experience of separation, the idea is that if I become good enough, if I find the right answers, if I have the right experiences, I will in the end have a continuous experience of happiness or joy or peace or whatever. Every individual will have their own story of what the meaning and purpose of this is, what it calls its life. Now, that's an illusion. There is nothing outside of this appearance. And the experience that it's a separate reality, that the sense of being separate never actually happens. It's just an appearance. What is this an appearance of? Well, it's nothing. It's no thing. And it's not in that sense an appearance of no thing. No thing isn't the source of this. This is no thing appearing as a room and bodies and words and a conversation. And in that way, this is already whole. It is needlessly what it is. Now that sense of separation is looking for something that can't be found, because this unity, the wholeness, isn't separate. It is everything. It's ubiquitous. It's all there is. So in the experience of separation, it seems to be lost. But it isn't lost. It's impossible for it to be lost, and it's also impossible for it to be found. But what happens is that sense of separation overlooks the fundamental unity that this is, looking for something it can know. Wholeness, that unity of nothing, everythinging, can't be known. It isn't a thing. It's everything. So if we talk about that, we'll be sharing concepts. And I just want to be clear, I can't tell you what we're talking about. But what
You drive a fast car. I won't take it anywhere. Maybe we can make it here. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Everything is better.
In the first 2
Start
minutes.
from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to lose.
This can bring about what is already. But what this can do is sort of expose the experience of separation from the illusory nature that it is. And that can have seemingly effects. It can feel like there's a fundamental
You gotta
it can jar loose certain concepts and beliefs and ideas that the individual has about
You got a fast car. I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we can make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Somewhere got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to lose. You got a fast car. I got a plan to get us out of here. Been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money. Won't have to drive too far. Just the border and into the city. You and I can both get jobs. Finally see what it means to be living. See, my old man's got a problem. He lives with a bottle, that's the way it is. His body's too old for working. He's too young to look like this. Mama went off and left him. She wanted more life than he could give. I said, somebody's got to take care of him. I quit school and that's what I did. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way. I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
No. To me, that sense of separation doesn't know what unconditional means. It thinks it understands.
You got a fast car. We go cruise and entertain ourselves. Usually I ain't got a job, and I work in a market as a checkout girl. I know things will get better. You'll find work and I'll get promoted. We'll move out of the shelter, buy a bigger house and live in the suburbs. Remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice right around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
As long as there's an individual, the experiences this has because I have.
You got a fast car.
I got a job, days all I've been.
Stay out drinking late at the bar. More of your friends than you do of your kids. I'd always hope for the better. Thought maybe together you and me'd find it. I got no plans, I ain't going nowhere. So take a fast car and keep on driving. So I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
Organizing the appearance, navigating the appearance, trying to organize it in a way that it will in the end become what it feels like.
You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so you can fly away? You gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way.
Apparently horrible things happening. And every cell, every atom of every appearance is unconditional love. Vibrating aliveness. That's just it. It's not comforting. Yeah, vibrant aliveness. Yeah.
But now I don't want to be Buddha, but
Well, go ahead.
people, who I listen you told me, they don't live terrible things. Or they don't tell us when they are consuming.
Where over the rainbow way.
So that's your out. That's your out. Oh, well, they say it because they don't have terrible things happen. But if they lived in the Congo and saw people being tortured, then they would know. And then they couldn't say it anymore.
Somewhere over the rainbow skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, behind me, Their troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? Just
And there's
this.
nothing right or wrong with helping children. No. No, there isn't any structure for it.
When I'm down
It's sort of
and oh my soul so
sense of
weary,
trying to be
when
right
troubles
behind the
come
It's all
and
about
my
that
heart
sense of
burdened
that
be,
what's happening is real.
then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me.
It wouldn't be a reaction. I mean, just
Raise
to make
me
it-
up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up so I can roar me seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulder. You raise me up to walk on stone sea.
What's that? But there is cruelty. There's cruelty and there's apparent compassion. Sure.
Raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulder. You raise raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
The individual has a position.
Raise me up to more than I can be.
There's no real position anywhere. There's only apparent position.
This one here, speaking out of the memory.
But that's the same. It doesn't matter. It's the same as this. There's no difference. It's the same as the chair or the floor or the idea of a Congo. It doesn't, the difficulty for the individual is because what it needs is more. This isn't enough. It's always trying to find a path. This isn't it. It's somewhere else. And so the path is getting the Congo in order, or what you were saying, getting rid of the conditioning or changing circumstances in one way or the other. Because fundamentally the experience of this is incomplete. And that is illusory. It's an illusory experience that there's someone having this experience.
So what happens when somebody hears you, no one? So things start changing.
Maybe. It doesn't matter. There's no intention. There's no intention. It doesn't matter. Not in that way. Because what's obvious from here, let's say here, is that there's no difference in that way. This has hair and that doesn't, but there's no real difference.
I was born Buddha, I lost it.
But there's no fundamental difference. It's just no thing appearing as two.
So you have to try to stay with it for a while. You have to try and stay with it for a while. Yeah.
Bodies.
There's an illusion that the things are different for them, for the separate self.
Oh, for the separate self, it matters. It matters because it's the sense is that this is incomplete, and so it's on a journey. It's on a journey of becoming a better person, trying to create a better reality. It's really fundamentally, it just wants a better experience. So it keeps going for better experiences in the hope that the right experience or enough experience or enough knowing will be for the fulfillment it feels is missing.
Is it because of the nervous system survival mechanism?
Well, no, that still functions even without anyone.
Oh, like the nervous system, like what I figured out. It's nervous system, it's quick.
All right, well, thank you for coming out, everybody, for our meditation session. I wish you well, and I hope to see you again in the world of the light, the world of pure white light, where you can see is where I live. And yeah, good luck. Really, I shouldn't be thanking you. You should be thanking me.
But because I'm such a humble and generous person, I'm thanking you. So don't get it twisted. Okay? You ain't doing me any favors. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And wish you luck with your practice, okay? Practice well. And what Jim's talking about here is really pointing to that principle of you seeking for something better. And just stop doing that. That's never going to work out. That's incorrect. So go and do something else. Go and do something better. But drop this idea of you doing that. Right? So just move in that mind into this total presence, this total moment-by-moment presence that's not based in the self, based in the seeking, etc. Okay? And if you're a young man, you should be exercising. You should be going for walks. Okay? You're just sitting in your house. That's not going to work out, is it? Go and walk and expose yourself to... Canada's a safe place, isn't it? Okay? They're not lynching... brown people in Canada, are they? So go and walk your ass around and get a move on, okay? Just go and walk around and fumble around, sit in the grass, eat dirt, eat grass. If you're not going to eat shit, if it's too much to eat shit, go and eat some grass, eat some dirt, okay? And if you do that literally, that's probably a cope, that you're not willing to actually do that. Okay, which is what I'm telling you to do. All right. Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.